Welcome back to Made Up of Wires. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. If you want to know more about the Symphony of the Night decompilation project, you can go to soten.z.dev and learn some more. I think we're going to go back to the outer wall, and maybe I'm going to let's find some address offsets and play through and see if we can find what some of the things are that we don't know about yet. So I should mention, you can go to soten.z.dev to learn more. I'm a contributor to this project. It's something I like to do in my free time, and I am not the host or one of the maintainers of the project, just a contributor, and you could be too. So we're going to look at the outer wall, and what we want to do is find functions that haven't been decompiled yet, or not even necessarily not decompiled, but maybe just not named, and see if we can figure out what those functions are, and then name them. And naming goes a long way. 1 second. In decompiling things, because humans like names and they like to recognize things, and a bunch of hex numbers that represent an offset in memory is usually not a way that we recognize things, but we could if we wanted to, I suppose. Okay, I have a duck station going. So let's look at, I'm going to pull up that window now. And we're going to look through NL1. I will start with the functions that haven't been decompiled, because there likely isn't information about those yet. But then we can move on to other things if we get far enough here. So that's in source ST for stage. NL1 is the outer wall. The name comes from the original disk. And we want to focus on some of these files that are named with hex numbers. Those are the offsets into those files. And some of these we worked on. Some of them other people have worked on. But we can kind of go through and see where are areas where we have a significant number of things missing. And we're going to take those and put them into the DuckStation debugger. And I'm just going to start, I'm going to take these addresses out. Unfortunately, the way the debugger is written, when you delete them in bulk, you lose the list doesn't update. Just a little bug. And now I gotta get back to the debugger, and I should have 0 breakpoints. Great. Oh, actually, I destroyed that window. Give me 1 second. Now I'll fix that. Last time we were doing DuckStation, I was working on showing how we can rebuild a new disk and then use that updated disk to have a custom overlay, and how we can reload that overlay. I don't think we're going to do that today. I did look at those results a little bit more this morning, and it definitely was the change that we made. It was a really subtle color change that turned out to be more subtle than I was hoping for, but that's what happens. Okay, so I'm going to start adding these addresses. The plus icon up here brings up a little add breakpoint window. Unless I share my whole screen, I can't show you that, because it's a new window each time. But I'm just going to go through and start adding these. And like I said before, not that one. I am just going through this list, and the hex numbers that appear here are the ones that I'm adding to as breakpoints in the debugger. And breakpoint just says you can tell it what you want. In this case, if it's going to execute that address in memory, then stop the emulator and show me what is happening there. And what we're going to do is basically go through and see if any of these memory locations are hit. And if they are hit, we know that that function likely has to do with an entity somewhere around that code. So it's either a function that's being called in support of an entity, or it is the entity state machine itself. Good evening, Dig Down Deep. Good to have you back. If you weren't here earlier, I'm just doing some more spelunking around what some of these unnamed functions are and see if we can trigger some of them throughout the outer wall. And what's nice about this method is that it doesn't get reset when, so the debugger state does not get reset when you load save states. So this persists across those, and so we can even do things like recompile and put in a custom disk, and those will still be there. Some of these may get triggered right away. Some of them may take a while. Some of them we might not be able to trigger at all. Some of them, it's possible, could be before the... it could be like this Soul of Wolf orb, which doesn't appear until you've triggered the elevator. No, actually, the Soul of Wolf does appear before you trigger the elevator. It's possible that the elevator entity is different before and after triggering. That I don't know. That's what we're here to find out. So let's start and see if we hit something. And we hit something already. We hit 8F50. What's difficult about hitting something right away like this is it could be a multitude of things. Since we didn't trigger it coming from off screen, it's more difficult to tell what it might be. But it's something in that's present in this view right now. I'm going to disable this one and continue. So disabling that one does let us play. I'm going to reset this to, I believe I have a break or a save state just before the doppelganger fight. And if I remember correctly, oh, are we gonna, is my save state broken? No. Did we? We're triggering some breakpoint. 0 to 8, so maybe something near the doppelganger fight. And disable that one for now as well. Triggering 068. What I'd like to do, hopefully, is come through, and as the camera gets to one of these things, that's when we trigger the breakpoint. So I'm going to go out and go back to... oh, I don't have double jump. I'm going to go back out to the wall, and I'll re-enable those, and then we'll come back through. There's a attack animation that I don't see very often. So we don't have the fog. I was hoping that there would be fog. I'm going to come out and come back in. Does no fog mean that I've killed Doppelganger already? Alright, so I've re-enabled them all. And so now we'll see if... and I don't have Solar Wolf yet. So now we'll see if any of these trigger as we get close. And if I remember correctly, right now I probably need to just use Fist, because I think everything else is too weak. Alright, so we should see... Okay, so we've hit 8068 in this this vertical room here. So I'm going to make an annotation. So this is so now we at least know the location of this function, or the entity that's triggering this function. We can kind of look around and see what might be triggering it. Sometimes I'll go through like this and just kind of... So every frame this function is going to be called as long as the entity is within some offset of this of our window. We have a couple different functions getting hit here. It looks like 028 and 068 are all getting called multiple times, possibly multiple times per frame. Otherwise, we might just be getting something else. So one of the things I see at first as well is what seems like could be background is actually popping into focus. So like here's a door that's leaning. That may be a unique entity, so that they can reuse the tiles elsewhere. There's another piece of stuff here. Where was it? There was like a cloth down there too. So I'm going to get rid of 6.8. And then the other function that we have that we keep hitting is this 028. Let me get rid of that one as well. That's another function that is happening in this door. I'm going to make that note as well. And then the last one is this 008 down at the bottom. And I will just make a note of that as well. I'm doing this behind the debugger in my terminal. I have these both open side by side in my view. You may not be able to see that, but I can. All right, so let's keep going. And, oh, we have one more. I didn't disable 08. Yeah, so we have a bunch of like decorative stuff here. We also have this, we call these vessels, this torch here. It's possible that one of these is the torch. If so, that would be a shared function. But I think most of the shared functions here have been mapped out. Let's go over to the save room. Nothing in the save room. I'll just get health here. So it is possible. So one way we can tell if it was one of these vessels or not is we can re-enable these functions. So here's 008, still getting hit, and that entity is now destroyed, and it would not be part of the game logic anymore. 028, also, that one's still being hit, likely not related to that. And then finally this 068 is the last one, and that one's still there too. So my guess is that it has something to do with the decoration out here, for lack of a better word. And we can look at any of those as we go through and figure out what that is. My guess is that this bell up here is part of that as well. We're out of the viewport for some of those. So I forget how far it is, but a certain number of pixels away, entities will get destroyed if they're part of the room layout. And so here, for example, 008 is no longer being hit. So it's likely some of the decoration down there. 028 is still being hit. And 068 is no longer being hit. So I would think that 068 and 008 are probably some of that decoration at the bottom. So I'm going to add that note to those. So 008 and 068, I think. 028. And if it comes to it, we can do some stuff to try to identify those even closer. I'm going to go into this boss fight. Do we trigger a breakpoint again? It looks like we may have. So now our breakpoint is at BF50, which is a new one. So this is going into Doppelganger's room. I believe in this case that Doppelganger's room is the same. Sometimes boss rooms are copies of stages, and when you walk into them the first time, the stage overlay disappears and the boss overlay is loaded, and then when you walk out, the stage overlay is loaded again. We've talked about that in the past. And then once you've beaten the boss, then that boss overlay is never loaded again. So this is entering Doppelganger's room. I'm just, again, making a note offline. And I will remove that breakpoint. And we don't have anything. So that door is unique that came down. We've looked at in the past the middle rotating discs. Those are a unique entity as well. $384. Oh, so now we have something new. So this is at D34. So this is after destroying Doppelganger. What is... I'm going to try two things. The first is I'm going to disable this breakpoint and then come back into the room. This may be the door after Doppelganger has left. So now I'm gonna enable the breakpoint again. Go back into the room. We don't see that anymore. Unfortunately, I picked that item up before, or like right as it was falling. I think I'm going to reload my previous state and do that fight again. I still have the 6-8. This is the wrong one. Oh, is that? Yeah, this is the right one, sorry. So I don't want to collect the Heart Vessel right away. Morning, Orcam. Yep, just trying to name some things, hopefully. And we'll see what they are. So, oh, I still have my, shoot. I have my sword equipped, and I'm not going to beat him with one. Oh, I did beat him. Okay, so I don't want to collect the Heart Vessel yet. I want to see if this breakpoint is triggered. It's not. Okay, so this is something that's triggered as you're collecting the life up at 73.4. And let's see if it's just triggered once or if it's triggered multiple times. And it's only triggered once. All right, so let's keep going and see what else we can find. I'm not letting... It's possible that more of this is related to Doppelganger. But since I didn't let Doppelganger do anything, we don't trigger any of those functions. That I don't know. So then leaving and coming back in, nothing gets triggered. We can go down to the bottom. We just triggered another one, so this is at 73.4. Okay, so this is interesting. So this was the function that was just called in Doppelganger's room. Now there's nothing out here that I'm collecting. So I'm not sure what, that might be one to look at then later. I don't know if the, I think the duplicates report was broken, and the duplicates report would tell us pretty quickly whether any of these things exist in other functions. There's a few entities that change as you're playing the game. When you destroy things, for example, they might turn into a different entity as they're destroyed. So in that case, like the fire is probably a different entity from the enemy itself. And so destroying things along the way can help find certain things. One interesting thing that I thought would be fun to show is what the function is for the Medusa heads. It looks to me just like a sign function, but it would be fun to find the code for that, I think, as annoying as they are. So I'm going to go all the way to the top before leaving, and then I'll go all the way back down to the bottom. I don't think that we spent a long time looking at the birds and the boater, but I don't think that we found any of those functions except for the I will get there's a couple things I could try to do. Soul Steal poorly again against this knight. There's a couple things down here that that need finding. All these other functions, though, look like they are related. I'll grab that garnet. That's not terribly important at the moment. They all look like they're things that were like taking place in the doppelganger room. Oh my goodness, I did it the first time. I can't believe it. Last week I spent so much time trying to trigger that soul steal. Am I far enough in? I have to keep crouching. Oh, what's the secret elevator? Is it just standing? Or is there more? And it says standing for 20 seconds. Why? There we go. Okay, none of these are being triggered. Yeah, my guess is that all of these are related to Doppelganger in some capacity. So maybe we'll do the fight again, but this time without freezing him, and I'll be dying, and good fight. I'm watching this on OBS, which is not useful. Timing does not work that way. Oh, we did trigger one. Okay, so we triggered. It's a good thing I came down here. 4:30 was triggered, so this is entering the arc. And it looks like 4E4 is getting triggered as well. And B00. So this is just how I go about it. I'm sure there are other strategies that other people use to try to discover what each of these are, but yeah, this is just my method. One thing that would be reasonably straightforward is to do a return. Basically modify the function to return immediately. And then you could see what elements basically were missing at that point. Come on. I wonder what that guy in the boat thinks about this big castle appearing. So I don't see anything else down here. So I'm gonna reload my save and go back, and we'll do the doppelganger fight again. This time without freezing him, and probably get owned. But that's okay. Actually, all my strategies involve cheesing, and specifically not letting him pull off moves. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's gonna. Let me let him do something more. So none of this is showing up. Okay. So the other ones are still a mystery. Obviously, getting the fog back. I don't have a save state prior to the fog. It'd be kind of nice to see that. But I'm not. Oh, and I did it anyway. All right, so we have enough, I think, here to go on for a bit. So let's pause. Pause the game. And I am going to enable that 73.4 function one more time and see if this triggered. And then see if I can tell what is happening out here when it gets triggered again. And seemingly nothing important at all is going on. I'm not sure why I did the jump over, or I was on my way over to here. Yeah, so there's something that's triggering this function at this location. But it seems like a function related to increasing life. Let's look at that function. That's a good place to start, I think. So we're going to look at 7D34, something that gets triggered right after life, and then at this one rando spot. All right, so I was working on, yesterday, I showed some of the SDK functions related to CD, and I thought maybe it's a good idea to start working on those. And I looked at SozuD's SciQ decomp project. There's I think there's some strategic things that make working on that a little bit harder. So for Soten decomp specifically, we can kind of piecemeal the SDK back together and do one function at a time. The way SozuD's project is working, from what I can tell, is you need to decompile an object at a time. And for libcd, there is maybe 10 or 12 functions that go into this this particular object is called BIOS within the libcd library. And so on the I've tried submitting some of these other SDK decomps in the past to Soten decomp, but there is a desire to get them in this more generic SciQ decomp project. However, like I said, you can't piecemeal those. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of piecemeal them in my own branch on Soten decomp, and then if I get a full object match, then I'll submit that PR over there. All right, and so what we're doing is pulling this 7D34 function. So all we know right now is that this has... so aside from my internet problems, and this may actually be the cause of some of the streaming errors, not all of the streaming errors, certainly, but it does seem like either macOS networking or the particular adapter that I have in place right now is very inconsistent. We do have other internet issues apart from that, but for my other computers, I get gigabit speed between systems, and for whatever reason, this one I don't. At times I do, and then at other times it drops to nearly nothing, and I can't find an obvious reason why. I was working on that actually just before the stream, trying to find another network adapter that I could use instead. All right, so I pulled this function, and I did the wrong thing. There we go. This window as well. So I didn't take a look at this at all beforehand. Not too long. You can see if anybody has started work on this as well. And so I think what will be... Oh, where are the first? What I'm going to be trying to determine is whether or not first we can tell what this function does and why it's being called both places. The decompiler wasn't able to figure out what type this is, so we can give it a hint. This is likely going to be an mtotu, an entity. Sometimes that happens to me. I use an Apple extended keyboard too, and the dots on this keyboard are on the D and the K in the home row. And so sometimes even after I think 15 years I've used this keyboard, I'll still find myself putting my index fingers on those positions instead of my middle finger. So let's get a new decomp with the correct signature, and then see what we need to fix. So we have a type that's unknown. We have some hints, primarily that the index is being multiplied by 4, so facing left is going to be a 0 or a 1. And then the 4 means that this is likely a 32-bit value. Velocity X, I believe, is a fixed 32. So let's call it a fixed 32. And it's actually going to be an array of fixed 32s. And I think because it is 32-bit, it should just generate load word and store word instructions, but we'll see if that's actually the case. Incompatible types, let's see what velocity X is. It is a... That's not the right place. Is it? So I'm looking for the entity. So here velocity X is just assigned 32. I would be interested in knowing if that's actually the case or not, or if that was convenience and that there is just too much inertia behind that change. All right, so what other issues that we have? On line 80, we have an incomplete type. And what type would that be? Oh, the same thing. And we're at 80%. That's not bad. Now we do the normal things. Get rid of as many temporary variables as we can. There's a couple other warnings. So here we have an unknown type. So this is part of an entity extension that we don't know what it is yet. I think that's something we'll deal with towards the end as we get closer with everything else. And along the way, we can try to start thinking about what this might be. These animations are going to be arrays, and so we can address those directly. This is a decrement of this field, this temp v0. And then it's doing this shift, but what the shift is actually doing is, I believe it's just a mistake in how M2C treats the 16-bit value being cast as a 32-bit. All right, so there's a few things here that we can try to figure out when there's a block or a label that immediately has another goto, you can probably just replace it with that other label. So let's find block 25 and see what's going on there. Sometimes labels are used for loops that M2C can't figure out. Other times it's code that's relatively simple but common. So I'm going to replace any of the block 25s with the goto block 26. I don't know if that will affect the match or not, but we'll see. We should be able to get rid of this now. I don't remember how close it was. I'm going to save. That gets me in trouble. Here we have a temporary variable that appears unnecessary. This is kind of interesting. And kind of gross, so we'll have to untangle this in a bit. So M2C recognizes this as a switch. I'm not sure if it is a switch or not. But the second case on the switch is within two conditions, and one of those conditions is the condition, which is the same as case one, actually true. And it wouldn't be true. So this seems like an M2C hallucination. There's only one other place where goto block 26 is used, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I think the compiler should match that for us, and it does. These GAPI is always struct access. There's a few errors there that probably should be fixed. Oh, which one didn't it like? Didn't like me getting rid of this early load. It looks like the issue was I replaced the wrong thing. No, maybe there's more of an issue than that. Let me fix the addressing here. So fixing the addressing here, this is being loaded as an unsigned in the original, where our type has it as a signed. I'll have to see what the cause of that might be. There's also this this masking of 8,000 versus a shift to the left by 16. That to me looks again like it's a we may be looking at a fixed point number, so 16 bits for the whole number, 16 bits for the fractional piece, and then shifting over to see if we're shifting to the left, it'll be bringing the fractional piece up. I don't know. We'll have to look at that in a little bit. I guess I would be seeing if the fractional piece is 0.1 or lower, because then we're treating it as a negative number, basically. This is a fixed value as well. I have a little utility. It's just a stupid Ruby script, but it will take these and give you fixed numbers. And I probably should incorporate that into Sotenlint at some point. But then I'd have to rewrite it. What fun is that? All right, so let's look at where this block 18 is being used. So if we're not facing left and temp A1, which is set somewhere else, way up here, is one of these two things. This logic seems like it can't be correct. And so this could be a bug in the original Soten code, or it could be a bug in how M2C is treating this. But what we're doing is saying switch the direction that the entity is facing when we get to a certain point. Based on how far to the right, and the distance between the two is relatively short. It's only about 16 pixels difference. So we're still trying to figure out what this entity is and why it gets called after you get a life max up, as well as then just outside the doppelganger room in the large column stairway. I'm going to break this up a little bit. So there's looking at how this logic gets interpreted if we get down to this not facing left. Typically, facing left won't be an explicit check against 0, and we can look at the PSP version to see that as well. If we're not facing left and this condition holds, whatever this is, we don't know what this entity extension means yet. Then we're going to run this logic, and then we're going to jump here, and jump to the break. So the easier thing to do would be to say break here, and then regardless of whether this condition, if this condition failed or if this condition failed, we're always going to run this code down here. So we can do this break and then get rid of the goto, get rid of the else, and then we can add this break here, but this break isn't necessary either because we have the else down there, but that should be structurally equivalent. I think I got rid of that other block 26. Let's see. Yeah, now we can get rid of this label. So we should do something similar with this block 18 as well. I think I can rewrite this as just as a normal case statement, or sorry, like if conditional. And I think M2C just overmatched here. So if we're not facing left, we'll follow the same structure as what is up here above. If we're not facing left, and this temp A1 is greater than 198, or we'll try it this way. Or we are facing left, and temp A1 is greater than 209. I don't know for sure that this is the correct logic. But it'll give us a slightly I think cleaner place to start. Then we're gonna execute this, and let's see if I did everything that I need to do. Why is so yeah, this is cleaner. We have to fix this condition. So the first issue is where we are branching to if our first condition fails. In one case, we're branching to 1.8a, and so this this seems fine. I might pull the PSP version. Let me see if I can read through this before doing that. So facing left is going to be offset 14. So if we're not facing left, then we're going to jump down to 19C. And if we need to find what A2 is. A2 is set to 1. So if not facing left or facing left and 209, okay. Maybe this is the order? So now I'm looking for this. So the A0 check is wrong. And where we're going based on that check is wrong. I'm going to pull the PSP version. I think it'll be easier than me going through all the permutations. There's only, 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. Is that 10? Ten combinations, I think. But let me keep going, and then we pull the PSP version. So some of these I think are going to be typing. So in this case, temp v0. I was hoping that was going to be a 16-bit issue, but that looks correct. This temp A1, this is getting calculated early. So we're saying, what is the what is the entity's position plus the current scroll in the tile map? Let's go up to the top here. We have wrong registers, but that's okay. Let me try making this a sign 32 and see if that makes a difference. Doesn't. So we'll just call temp A1 offset X, and I don't have any other temp A1, so it should be safe to commandeer that. Just do a replacement throughout. And it does appear that that is being done early. Player Z priority, this is struct access. And that should change how this is loaded. But it's being loaded out of order. So we need to fix that. And we'll just keep moving it up until hopefully we get to the right place. The animation set is kind of an odd value. That may be a special case. And so there may be an enum for the 7FFF. Anything like that that's that big seems like it should be a special number. Okay, so here we're setting this 8,000 again. This is seemingly in the wrong order. So let's move that down. And that order looks much better. And then we're back here with the temp v0. So this temp v0, I'm going to do a decrement here, and then basically just do a negation of the value. And I think that that should fall out the way I want it to. Maybe not. Do we have sine 16 axis here? We do. And that worked. So we know that this first field in this unknown entity extension is going to be a sine 16, which is a good thing to know. I'm going to get rid of all these casts. The mask here, I'm guessing, is unnecessary, and because offset x is already a sine 16, this is actually suggesting that it might not be. The shift to the left and then shift to the right is basically doing the work to mask it properly. And so it looks like maybe it was that it might have been masked explicitly. Was. This mask, however, I'm going to explicitly make this an unsigned. I'm not sure if it needs to be. It's possible that this offset x is actually unsigned, and maybe we can get rid of that. Let's see if that changes anything. Let's get rid of the unsigned here then. That looks like it works as well. So most of this is working fine. I'm a little concerned about why this is getting loaded as an unsigned in the original when these are well-known values and they're always being treated as signed. So here we have another one of these decrements. And actually, a lot of times these decrements are done in line. And they may be something simple like a timer. So we still have this issue here. Like I said, I'm going to come back with the PSP version to fix that. Here we need to access the signed version. '83. I think I'm going to try to go back to this, or we're not. It really doesn't like that change. I wanted to just use position Y directly, but this is wanting it in a separate variable. Let's look at the type of that variable. It's unsigned. It could go back to all of these being treated as unsigned 16s, basically. This gives us the casting. It gives us the the load type that we want. So let me just take the cast along with it. Usually I wouldn't want to do that. But that seems to work out fine. This is being loaded as unsigned as well. Now those match. So here we're doing a shift left. The original is doing a shift left by 16, and then checking for less than 0. Here, temp A2. So this is, we could call this offset Y, for example. I actually think that this temp A2 may be a unsigned 32. I'm going to go with that and call that offset X, or offset Y, sorry. And then I think that this may all fall into place. No, not quite. Let me try one other option. Let me try this as a signed 32. No, it's not working out the way that I want it to. Okay, we'll rely on the PSP version for that as well. And so where is the PSP version? We do need to fix this down here as well. So let's find it. And the way we find it is by finding a value that looks unique. This velocity x at 2c1000 looks unique. The issue with that, however, is that this is going to be broken up into two 16-bit values in the assembly. One of those is going to be 2, and one of them is going to be c1000. So I don't want that right now. This 198 and 209, those might be unique enough, but because they're greater than or equal to, the value in the assembly might actually be 208x. This one actually looks a little better. 1A1, that's not a number that you see very often. So I'm going to try that one. And I do that, I want to find a unique value because the symbols are all going to be different or undefined on the PSP. And we don't necessarily have anything else to go by. There's some things like function calls and other things like that that might match, but this I find is usually pretty reliable. Oh, and do I not have NL1? I'm going to have to extract NL1. I thought I did. Excuse me. Now let's see if I still have the config for it. It doesn't look like it, so we're going to use tools make config. Version is PSP EU. And the reason we use the EU PSP version is because it was the first SOTN version with multi-language. And this is interesting. So the number of entities differs between the two, so it's possible that this function isn't even there, but we will try. So I'm going to use, do I have splat? Yes, in my path. So this is going to be config splat pspu no1.yaml, and oh, stno1, that's right, stno1.yaml. And I'm going to use the extract command. Nope, split command, split. Our target for the make file is extract. We should make a split. And then I'm going to look for A1A1A1. Which one was it? It is 8DD is another good one. I had one that yeah, 1A1. A1A would be the interstate down in Florida. My dad was very proud of me when I got my driver's license and took me to drive on A1A when I was 16. Okay, we have a couple. So let's add the 8DD as well. I can't find that one. Let's see if any of these come up for the same search. All right, so this top one looks to be the most likely. So let's go back over and create a PSP scratch and see if we can get a match over here. Or if we can figure out some of the mysteries. And we know what the function signature is, or we have a good guess as to what the function signature is. So we'll put that in to start with. So we get a good starting point for M2C. And then we're going to throw that all away. This actually does look relatively clean. We have a symbol down here that we can map on the PSP side, which would be helpful. Possibly one up here as well. It's always good to initialize entity. I'm surprised that it hasn't been mapped. That might be a stage-specific symbol now that I think about it. It's always nice to go through and fill in more symbols on the other platforms. So let's see if we compile. Okay, so this was a small miss the first time. We don't need, but relatively close. So let's look at the M2C decomp for the conditions here and see if there was something that was missing. So this is the facing left check. So if not facing left and less than E10, that looks different. And 1A1. So it looks like these may be flipped. Or not. Okay, so this looks like the logic that that we want here. So we're incrementing the exposition based on the exposition, the exposition based on the left entity. We want to the temp v0 is being calculated up here like before. We're calling that offset x. And so we want to use that. And then instead of SP10, our variable is self. And so we said if we should be able to get rid of this cast. If not facing left and our order here was wrong. Okay. And let's see how that looks now. Line 66. Oh, that looks great, but not so great here. Because I think these are backwards. Okay, still not perfect. Let's steal that M2C decomp one more time. Come on, M2C. And I'm just going to replace everything that I have and then fix the variables. So I think the instincts to remove the switch there were good. Let's go down to around here. I'm going to get rid of that mask, which I don't think is necessary. I'm going to also get rid of these parens, which are now not necessary. I'm going to get rid of this other mask, which is not necessary, and the parens, which aren't necessary. So we have a sign extension that's missing, and instead we have a direct comparison against an unsigned value, unsigned value in a register versus an unsigned value. So what that's telling me is that this offset x that's being compared is actually a sign 16. And then that works just fine. And cleans up a whole bunch of other stuff. And so let's take this back now and compare. That gets us further on the PlayStation side. No difference up at the top. We get a little bit more. I'm going to assume that this is sign 16 as well. And that actually gets us very close. That's kind of funny. So fixing those types is gets us closer. I should know this. Definitely my fault. X and Y generally are 16-bit values. They are occasionally 32-bit, but that's the exception and not the rule. So I think that's where I'm going to end it today, and we can come back and figure out the other mysteries here tomorrow. There does seem to be a lot of low-hanging fruit still here that should be relatively solvable. So one thing that is difficult that came up in a PR earlier, I think Sunday, maybe Sunday night, Monday. The PSP versions of these functions have different names. And so even if we paste the same function name in, the ASM differ over here is not looking at the function name at all. It's just looking at the code that gets generated. And so what do we do? If I leave this function name, the PSP name, it's not searchable while looking for a PSP version of the PlayStation function. On the other hand, if I change the name when we're doing the PSP decomp later and focusing there, then we don't have anything that's searchable there either. So it is kind of a catch-22 regarding what should be done. This has been my pattern, is to, when I remember, just to add to the header a comment describing where different versions of this function are. It might not be the best, and maybe there's a different way to do it, but that's currently what I'm doing. It does seem like there are other globals that we could address as well. Always more work to do on decomp. And I appreciate you going on this journey with me for Decompiling Symphony of the Night. Appreciate everybody who shows up, who puts up with the 30 frames being dropped, 30% of frames being dropped, a nice 20 frame per second stream. Fortunately, we're not doing anything that requires higher fidelity. If you want to know more about decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, go to soten.z.dev and learn more. Find a link to the source code that's been decompiled so far, and to the Discord server. And actually, I think, what do we have here? Do we have it? Do we? Maybe? We scroll down? Nope, not yet. Let me refresh this page one more time. We should be getting, yes, it's here. We have progress now for the PSP builds as well. That's new as of yesterday, I believe. So we've had the percentages have been tracked along the way, and what has been missing is just the graphs, and now we have the graphs as well. So you can follow the PSP decomp story as well, and it might be fun to go back and look at ST0. I actually thought Warp was done on the PSP, but it looks like not. And there is challenge, definitely. So these versions of the game are mostly identical source, but then occasionally they're not. And then we have to figure out whether or not it's our PlayStation code that's wrong, or if there's a difference between the two versions of the game. All part of the fun when decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. That's all I have for you today, and I'll be back tomorrow with more. Adios.